Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where, what a shocker! With a global pandemic going on, people did not want to risk their lives to see a movie. Although, I can't help but wonder, if Black Widow had come out this weekend, considering it's a Marvel movie, would people have gone? Even A Quiet Place 2, which unfortunately we can all now relate to a bit more than we'd like. But this past weekend, Bloodshot, The Hunt, and I Still Believe, Bad Luck of the Draw movie theaters, they're like, this is what we went out on? I'm afraid so. They were no match for the real-life apocalyptic movie playing out across the entire planet. It's real. It's hard to compete with that, especially, I think, the first weekend. I think once things settle down, we'll see what happens. Nobody knows how long this is going to go on, as we're about to discuss. But anyway, yet unbelievably this weekend, while most of us were glued to social media and panic buying, some people still went to Red Robin, downtown Nashville, and the movies. So New York City, reluctantly, very reluctantly, by the way, but because, I told you, what's driving this, and especially in America, is that nobody wants to get sued. Our ability to sue is probably one of the greatest assets of this country. It does a lot of good. All right, so anyway, forces a lot of people to do what they should. So New York led the charge of closing down any reason to go outside, including movie theaters, starting tomorrow, Tuesday, at 9 a.m. You can't even get in a last-minute matinee. But why would you want to? LA, because New York led the charge, LA followed suit just like an hour or so later, and I'm sure other cities will follow throughout the rest of the week. You tried, movie theaters. In fact, just hours before New York and Los Angeles announced the closures, the forced closures, theaters had told the trades, they were like, well, what are you going to play? Because there's no movies coming out. And they were like, oh, don't worry, I think one of them said, we're going to do it with class, and risk people's lives. So it's like the Titanic with the orchestra playing. They're like, we're going to play classic movies. Sure, you can watch them at home, but don't you want to come outside to the movie theater? So they were going to play classic and fan favorite films. But that's no longer an option. But I would also like to say, movie theaters, considering the fact that you can't even wipe your bathrooms down once a day, you honestly expect us to believe that you're going to wipe down every single seat, the entire seat, every point of contact, and the whole theater, including buttons on the elevators and stuff, like every 2 hours, or some of them promised like every hour. They were a little bit vague on it. They were like throughout the day, and you're like, as soon as someone touches it who has coronavirus, it's contaminated, and everybody who touches it until the next wipe down, even if it's an hour later, is at risk. So, yeah, we told you, movie theaters, your dirtiness would eventually catch up with you. Sweet, sweet karma. However, it's not good, of course, for a number of people. And I'm not talking about you because you're bored. Now, sure, the studios and all the suits will be fine. But, well, not necessarily. The companies will be okay. They're going to have tremendous write-offs, and I'm sure that the government, in order to keep the economy going, New York's doing a lot of subsidizing, and I'm sure big companies will be able to talk the government into throwing a little cash their way too, even if they don't truly need it. Although, we'll see how long this goes. They might actually need it. But this is devastating news for below-the-line talent on all the productions that have been halted, and also employees of all these businesses that are being shuttered. Because while some companies are stepping up and paying their employees anyway, others are already experiencing or being threatened with unemployment, being fired, or furloughs. And for those of you who don't know what a furlough is, I had to look it up too, I'll be honest. It means you're not fired, but you have to take an unpaid break for who knows how long. So I don't know, a furlough could turn into unemployment. It's scary times for everybody. At least places like New York City have said that no one can be evicted from their home for not being able to pay the rent. And to be honest, though, I think even people in Hollywood outside the studio upper levels are going to suffer as well, because delaying the release or production of movies and TV, including all talk shows, because they can't have an audience or even a crew, puts careers on hold and makes it hard for new projects to get greenlit. In fact, these productions can't even shoot if they wanted to because they can't get insurance. Again, the legal system and things like that, forcing people to do the right thing, because nobody will insure these movies television shows, because they could very well likely have to shut down because of coronavirus. Even if they're like, we're going to soldier on, they're like, if somebody gets it, your production gets locked down, I'm not going to pay out. The insurance says I'm not going to pay out. Nobody can shoot without insurance. It's one of the reasons that in the past actors haven't been able to work, because they're uninsurable, because they're not responsible. And they were talking about the Me Too, that becoming something under insurance, and now coronavirus. And then also with no film festivals and comic book conventions over the next couple of months, that means that people trying to get their work noticed through those events can't. It's a real problem. Beyond, not having anything to watch. But wow, talk about the perfect global disaster for Hollywood's new streaming initiative, right? I mean, nobody was watching Apple TV Plus, but now, well, give it a couple of weeks, you might get bored enough. Yes, but speaking of weeks, the CDC just recommended no gatherings of more than 50 people for 8 weeks. That takes us through mid-May, past Black Widow's release date. As I tweeted last night, Black Widow should maybe grab that Memorial Day weekend spot just vacated by Fast 9. Sorry, Wonder Woman 1984, but Marvel's got to do what Marvel's got to do. The hard truth, though, is that we have no idea how long this will last. That might not, I think it's very likely that would, even Memorial Day will be taken out, which is why Fast 9 moved. Both, we don't know how long government restrictions will last, and we don't know how long it'll take for people to feel safe again. Those are two very different things. What the government says is true and how people feel. Both for positive and negative, to be honest. Some people aren't taking it as seriously, which is why there are all these closures. And, the movie theater said, we're going to stagger you, you won't be close to each other. It never works out. Like, I was checking to see local movie theaters, and they were like, oh yeah, we're staggering you. But online, the system wasn't doing that. So if you showed up to the theater, either they would let you sit close to each other, or they'd tell you have to leave. It was a mess. Now, again, I don't think that these movies will go to streaming. A number of you are like, send it to streaming. You already signed up for all the streaming services. So throwing these movies there would be throwing money away. In some cases, as much as $1 billion. Because, they might get some additional Disney Plus signups. And it's not available everywhere yet, by the way, either, which, whoa, nerds, they better hurry up on that. Although they can't send out technicians to maybe I don't know if it's all how it would be to set up a streaming service. But they're not done. But they're just not going to throw that money away. If this lasts all summer, well, as I've discussed, and I've seen some of you discussing online, the theaters, the studios have contracts with the movie theaters. So the theaters would have to be cut in on any of that revenue that was made to charge $30 to $40 to see a movie online, which is what they would do. Make no mistake. They're not going to give you the movie for free. Frozen 2 was already coming to Disney Plus. They just moved it up. And if anybody bought it, like myself, onto iTunes, because we did a Frozen watch-along already, you did something good for your country, sorry. For the world, not just your country. But anyway, so AMC is trying to get a streaming service up and running. They could put new movies on it, right? They might have the time to get it up and negotiate those deals. But that's a Pandora's box situation. Once audiences are allowed to purchase a theatrical release at home for $30 to $40, they will want to continue to do that even after the coronavirus pandemic ends. And the movie theaters, believe me, are going to be very reluctant to potentially destroy their brick and mortar businesses. A short-term gain, sure, a significant one, but for a ridiculously significant long-term loss. And that would really affect a lot of jobs. It would be similar to when all the music stores went out of business. It would not, I know that you were like, I'm at home, I want it now, but you should try and at least think of the people who work at the movie theaters. All right, now let's take a look at these apocalyptic box office numbers. All the movies for the entire weekend made just $55.3 million, a 22-year low, hearkening back to a time when Hollywood was an entirely different animal. Not overly reliant on nostalgia nor franchises. Can you imagine it? And movies made their money over the course of weeks and sometimes months, rather than mere days. So that wasn't a bad haul back then, because they had a long ways to go. So what sent us back to the dark ages of the box office? Why, it was coronavirus. Only Onward could clear double digits, just barely, and still had a 73% drop in just its second weekend. But here's the silver lining. Since this movie has already hit theaters, this would be an option for Disney Plus, bringing it to the streaming service much faster, again as the mouse did with Frozen 2, and for available to purchase on iTunes and other places like that. I could see that happening real fast, because the movie's dead. Of the new releases, I Still Believe lucked out with a bit of a built-in audience because they had pre-sold tickets to church groups and the like, who still went, even though religious services and outings have been one of the top places to catch coronavirus. Bloodshot was right behind it, but only got a B cinema score, the same as Vin Diesel's last two Riddick movies. Pitch Black was before they started doing cinema score, so I don't know what that got. Interestingly, both these XXX movies got an A-, meaning that they're either better, which I don't believe, or people who aren't hardcore Vin Diesel fans don't even bother to go to those movies. So at least he's got a little bit of a wider reach here, I guess? I don't know. I liked Bloodshot. All right, so I think it's probably at a B because people are very divided on it. I think either you like it a lot or you hate it, or you laughed at it. All right, so anyway, finally, the Hunt controversy ended with a whimper, a mere $5.3 million and a C+ cinema score. Jason Blum and Damon Lindelof should have left it a mystery. Oh, it's too bad you didn't get to see my movie. It sure was good. Now we know that it wasn't. All right, so anyway, I thought it was interesting, but as I told you, not nearly as good as it needed to be and pretty half-baked. You know, a typical Damon Lindelof story. All right, so that's this week's movie math. What do you plan to do for entertainment for conceivably at least 2 months? I'll be making videos. I have a ton of them planned. I was traveling, so don't worry, I was very careful. And I made a list of all the things I could cover, and I was surprised at how long it was. And also, I'll be doing live streams that anyone can watch. Since New York's going into a lockdown, I have to do a little bit of prep work today. So today's stream will be an evening stream at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but they'll be earlier in the day the rest of the week. And of course, there's a watch-along tomorrow night. If you want to watch Star Wars with me, The Rise of Skywalker, that is also at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Anyone can watch along. Mark your calendars. I know you're available. All right, so share your thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.